Good afternoon, everyone. Once again, this is Teacher Joker from Wajukature School. I am teaching under the English program and also a homeroom teacher of grade 5/1. Okay, class, today is Wednesday, and the date for today is the 21st of July 2021. Our subject for today, class, is English, and we're going to talk about sports and city tour in Australia. Okay, class, are you ready? Okay, so I hope everybody's ready. So we're now going to start our lesson for today. So our topic for today is in chapter 2 on your book. Okay, so let's have a review first about our previous lesson, which is about sports scene. We had the vocabulary also before, which are badminton, surfing, snowboarding, kayaking, cricket, cycling, bowling, sailing, scuba diving, and rugby. Okay, let's take a look at the photos. So this is what we call badminton. Badminton. And this is what we call surfing. Okay, so this is surfing. Next is snowboarding. Snowboarding. And we have kayaking. And cricket. Cricket. Okay, do you know what is this? Okay, class, this is what we call cycling. Cycling. And how about this one, class? Do you know what is this? Okay, this is what we call bowling. Bowling. And we have here sailing. Traveling by sea. Okay? It's called sailing. How about this one, class? Do you know what is this? Okay, this is what we call scuba diving. Scuba diving. Next, as we have here, rugby. Rugby. So now, class, we're going to talk about sports tour and city tour in Australia. Okay, so why Australia? Because in Australia, it is called the land of sport, nature, and fun. Okay, let's take a look why Australia is the land of sports, nature, and fun. So on your student's book on page 15, we have here the things that we can see in Australia. So please open your book on page 15. Okay, but before we're going to read about the sports tour and city tour in Australia, let's have first the vocabulary for today. Okay, so before we proceed to our reading about sports tour and city tour in Australia, let's have first the vocabulary, or let's say words to know for this afternoon. Okay, so we have first tour, tour, Sydney, Sydney, opera house, opera house, harbour bridge, harbour bridge, Australian reptile park, Australian reptile park, lake, lake. Okay, so those are the words to know for today. So the next slide, I will be showing you a picture of these following words. So we have here a tour. Tour means a field trip. Okay, you're going to another place and explore, see what is in there. Okay, so that is what we call tour. Next is we have Sydney. Okay, do you know what is Sydney or where is Sydney? Okay, class, Sydney is the capital of Australia. Therefore, Sydney is in Australia. It's the capital of Australia. And how about this one, class? Do you have any idea of what is this? Okay, so this is what we call Opera House. Okay, Opera House is one of the famous destination in Australia. Opera House means a theater. Okay. Next one is we have Harbour Bridge. Harbour Bridge. So this is to be found in where? In Australia at the same time. So we can see this Harbour Bridge in Australia. Next one is we have Reptile Park or Australian Reptile Park. From the word reptile. When we say reptile, it's an animal that crawl and lay eggs such as, can you give me an example? A turtle. Okay, a turtle, crocodile, and a snake. So Australian Reptile Park is also a famous destination in Australia. Next one is we have lake. Okay, lake, like Pink Lake of Australia. So this Pink Lake is one of the famous lake in Australia because of its color. It's different from the other lakes in the world because it's pink. Okay, now since we had the vocabulary, we can now proceed in reading about sports tour. Okay, so this is what we call sports tour. On this tour, we see famous Australian sports teams like cricket and rugby. We go sailing and surfing at the seaside. We also go scuba diving of the famous Great Barrier Reef. Okay, so again, sports tour. On this tour, we see famous Australian sports teams play cricket and rugby. We go sailing and surfing at the seaside. We also go scuba diving off the famous Great Barrier Reef. Okay, so this is what sports tour about in Australia. If you're going to have a sports tour in Australia, you're going to see sports teams playing cricket and rugby. Okay, sailing and surfing is also very common at the seaside, and also scuba diving at the Great Barrier Reef. Okay, so let's proceed on the next reading. Okay, so let's proceed now to our next reading, which is about city tour. So on this tour, we visit the beautiful city of Sydney. We visit the famous Sydney Opera House and walk across the Sydney Bridge. We also visit the Australian Reptile Park. It's famous for the big lake full of crocodiles. Okay, so I repeat again about city tour. So what are the things that you can see in Australia if you're going to have a city tour? You can see the beautiful city of Sydney and the famous Sydney Opera House. At the same time, you can also see the Australian Reptile Park, which is famous for the big lake full of crocodiles. So again, I repeat reading. On this tour, we visit the beautiful city of Sydney. We visit the famous Sydney Opera House and walk across the Sydney Bridge. We also visit the Australian Reptile Park. It's famous for the big lake full of crocodiles. So that's all about city tour. So for your activity today, class, you're going to point and read. So read the sports tour and city tour in Australia. So kindly open your student's book on page 15 and then read about sports tour and city tour. Okay, and then after, send the video in our group line. Okay, class? So that's all for today and see you again tomorrow.